Hey guys, welcome back. This is Pablo from Dimar Shoe Repair in Guelph, Ontario. And our next project is going to be this Allen Edmonds Park Avenue Goodyear welted dress shoe. This is a 6 eyelet cap toe Oxford. And actually, a cool little footnote I found out is that it's been worn by 4 presidents on their inauguration day. So that's a cool little tidbit I thought I'd share with you guys. So obviously you can see the condition the shoe's in now. It's been very, very well worn, but not to the point where it's not worth repairing. The only real issue is that the customer didn't wear shoe trees. So you can see the creasing and the bend in the leather there. So what we got to do is pop a shoe tree in there, kind of massage the leather, get the form back. We're going to remove these soles, which are worn, not right through, which is good. The welt's good and clean, in good condition. The heel, the rubber pad was worn right to the bottom, but not through. So we're going to remove that. We'll try to save the heel base. This is an Allen Edmonds custom heel base, which means that it has a little bit of arch support built into it, which a lot of customers and consumers like. So we don't want to change that if we don't have to. And what we're going to rebuild them with is, of course, the best leather on planet Earth, which is JR Leather out of Germany. The JR Leather factory closed, and we all panicked and freaked out and thought that JR was done, which would have been a huge blow to the entire shoe community. But they were purchased by another tannery in Germany called Kilger, and now they have the recipe, all the equipment, some of the staff, and they're now producing the world famous JR Leather out of the Kilger tannery in Germany as well. And I think they're in production and they're going to be arriving soon this year. I still do have quite a good stock of JR Leather soles, so not to worry. If you guys need your shoes recrafted, we can take care of you on that end. And we are going to replace the all rubber heel lift with the JR combo heel. A little bit of a more dressier, cool looking style. You have the leather insert with the JR stamp, and then a nice little rubber pad here. It's about the same thickness as the original Allen Edmonds shoe. So let's go ahead and get this baby taken apart. All right, we got the rubber top lift off, and Allen Edmonds have this little thin rubber pad in between the heel base and the top lift, and I'm not exactly sure what it's for, what its function is. To me, it would be for gluing purposes, gluing rubber to rubber. That bonds better, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if it's a shock absorber or I have no idea. So if any of you guys know, please leave a comment because I'd like to solve that little mystery. And I'm sure it's well known, but it's slipping my mind right now what it's for. So next step is we want to pop this heel base off, nice and clean. In Allen Edmonds, they use a fiberboard heel base. It's not leather, it's fiberboard, but it's not crappy because really it's just a heel base. Looks the same as leather when it's done. And this one does have the built-in arch support, like I mentioned. So there is a function to it and a reason to salvage it. A lot of cases I do replace heel bases with leather stacked heel bases. You can kind of play around with the finishes a little bit more, and of course leather is a better material. But in this case we'll reuse this heel base. Perfect. Nice and clean. We'll pop these old nails out. Next step is we're going to sand the old stitches on the bottom of the sole, cut them, and then hopefully we can pull from the top of the welt all these stitches off in one pull or a couple pulls. That way we're not going one by one all the way around the shoe. So we'll hop this on our finisher and sand those soles down. Bang on the money, honey. One pull. Should buy a lottery ticket. All right, so let's remove all the cork out of the filling here. All right, so most shoe manufacturers use what's called a hot spreadable cork. So they heat up the cork, they pour it on, they get a hot iron, they spread it around, and it's kind of a one-shot pop, and they're done. Most cases it's fine, but I have found that it can sometimes have little lumps somewhere in the shoe, and that's not comfortable because you're stepping from the inside of the shoe onto the footbed, and then you have a bit of a lump. And I'm not saying this shoe had a lump at all, but it can happen. So personally, I like to use the cork taps, the sheets, so I can kind of place it exactly the way I want it, perfectly flush, and then I can sand everything perfectly flush and smooth. And that way you don't have any bumps, and I inspect it with my eye and I look at every angle. You just want to provide the most comfortable feel for a customer. So that's kind of my take on the cork. Again, most cases you'll be okay, but in some cases it can create an uncomfortable feel. And I have a pair of boots where that was the issue, but I was able to kind of press it down on my sole press and flatten it out a little bit, but you know, it can be an issue, and I've heard other shoe people say the same thing. So personally, I'm a sheet cork guy. I get offered all the time by suppliers to buy the hot cork, but I want to stick with what I use and what I like and what gives me the results that I know are good. So as you can see, removing all the old cork. Wasn't in terrible shape, but you know, you got little chunks stuck to the sole. So if you don't take this step, again, customer's going to have a very, very uncomfortable shoe. And I'm sure there are cobblers that don't take this step, and so be it. That's not the way I roll. And Allen Edmonds, they use a wood shank. Which I would never use one, but I mean, it's in fine shape. It's not broken or anything. But I know I could just snap it with with my fingers if I wanted to. But it's in good shape, so I'm going to reuse it. It hasn't broken. And I don't want to change too much of the shoe for the customer, because I know he kind of said keep it as original as possible. So that's going to involve reusing the heel bases, with the arch support, and then I'm going to reuse the same shank too. And this is the inside of a Goodyear welted shoe. Some of you know what it looks like, and I'm sure a lot of you don't. This is the footbed, which is the foundation of the shoe. It determines the shape of the shoe. Allen Edmonds uses a nice leather footbed, which is good. Then you have what's called a gemming, which is glued. It's like a fabric glued around the edge of the footbed. And then you have the leather upper, which comes out here. And then you have this strong leather Goodyear welt. And that's all hand stitched together. Well, hand stitched by cobblers, machine stitched by shoe manufacturers. And that's what gives this the Goodyear welt construction, which is, in my opinion, the strongest construction of a shoe. So at this point, I'm going to clean up the cork a little bit more. Got a little bit of gemming to re-glue here to make sure everything's secured, so these shoes will last for years to come. We'll reattach the shank, put in the new cork filler, and then install our JR leather soles and go from there. You want to make sure the gemming material goes right back in the original spot, because if not, you can widen or over tighten the shoe and change the shape and the feel, and that's no good. All right, we'll let that dry and then we'll press it back together. Okay, so we're at the point now where we have to glue our new leather sole onto the shoe. So I use the original outsole kind of as a template to trim down the JR sole, just so I get everything nice and centered and get the JR logo centered on the shoe as well. And in terms of glue, some of you might be interested in what glue I use. I use the Renia brand. This glue is called Col de Cologne, and I believe it's glue from Cologne, because Cologne is the city in Germany where it's manufactured. This is my most used glue. It is a grafted neoprene glue. Neoprene glues are the most common used glues by cobblers. Leather, rubber, etc. It's good for a bunch of different materials. And the reason I like the Renia brand so much is because there's a bunch of different products that they offer. So this neoprene glue, obviously you can use on leathers and then rubbers. There's different types of rubbers, thermoplastic, polyurethane, plastic, which isn't rubber, it's man-made. So this works with a lot of them. And then there's also the polyurethane glue that I use from Renia, which is called Syntec Total. That glue is great when I do like hiking boots, because the cup soles, some of them interface better with a polyurethane glue. And then there's also different primers for polyurethane, primers for thermal rubber, primers for chrome leather and oily leathers as well. So all these products from Renia interface together, and to me they are the best quality out of all the glues. Barge, Masters, Helmiflex. It's more expensive, but in the long run, it saves you money because you can, again, get through work much faster. As long as you can identify your material that you're working with, then you can just go ahead and use one of the Renia products. So that's what I have in my glue pot here, and we'll go ahead and get this shoe and sole glued. And this glue is also toluene and MEK free, which are two of the most cancer causing and harmful chemicals that used to be in modern glues, traditional glues. So I'm very happy that this one is just a little better for our health. All right, let that dry and then we'll stick it together. Okay, so we have the JR leather soles glued on, and before I channel the sole and stitch it on, I want to work a little bit on the uppers because, like I said at the start of the video, a lot of creasing and wrinkles happening in the vamp area. So I'm just going to pop a cedar shoe tree in. Get that vamp kind of stretched out a little bit. And I want to use shoe stretch spray and just very gently wet the shoe with it. This is pretty much alcohol and water solution. And the shoe, now that it's wet, it's going to form a little bit more to the shape of the shoe tree and give it its natural shape again. And then on the vamp area, I'm just going to massage it out a little bit. I'm going to go against the grain, against the wrinkles. Help smooth that area out. I want to make sure that when this customer picks up that he buys a pair of shoe trees for these, because they're still in very, very good shape. But down the road, he could run into some serious issues if he doesn't use shoe trees and prevent the creasing, because eventually it can dry out and crack, and then your shoe is not in a good situation. But these ones are definitely not at that point of no return. I can already see a lot of those wrinkles disappearing. So I'm pretty happy with that. Give them a little bit of a roll, just with a wooden dowel. All right, let those sit for a little bit and allow the shoe to form. Okay. So we just stitched the sole here. We did a black welt thread color and then a white bottom thread color, and it looks like we were bang on hitting all the holes. Okay, so we have most of the job complete now. We did our outsole stitching, which is stitching the outside of the welt to the sole. So now this sole and this shoe are all secured together, and that's one of the pros of the Goodyear welt construction, is that outsole stitching, the sole's never going to go anywhere. And I've also grooved, so put a channel into the leather. So I've buried my stitches into that groove. So it's going to be a while until the customer wears down the leather and starts to even touch those stitches. I have some glue on my heel bases, and I want to make sure I put the right heel base on the right shoe, because again, these have that little arch support. So you want the arch support to be on the arch of the shoe. I'm going to use some new threaded nails to secure the heel base to the shoe. This is a 360-degree Goodyear welt. So the welt goes all the way around the shoe, 360 degrees. So the sole is secured to the welt around the heel, so I don't have to nail through the shoe and set it in the footbed. You can see here there's no nails in the actual footbed itself. So all I need to do is make sure the nails catch the leather sole, and that's going to keep this secure to the shoe. And that way the heel base won't come off. And I'm using the provided holes from the original nailing gun at the factory, but it's catching the new leather sole, so it's going to kind of clinch and flinch to that leather sole. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to get these JR heels set up and glued. And then we'll go ahead and we'll sand the heel down. We'll put our edge coloring. We'll do some conditioning and polishing on the uppers, and then they're pretty much done. All right. All right, guys, so I want to pass it off now to my friend and shoe shine expert, Mario. He's going to do some conditioning with Saphir Renovateur from their gold medal 1925 line. And he's going to also use a cream polish to restore the pigment using Creme 1925 from Saphir's gold line as well. And then he's going to finish off with the Pat Deluxe from Saphir Medal d'Or gold line as well. This is a high gloss finish. It's going to add that extra pop and shine to these shoes.
I like to use my hands and my fingers and really work in the cream so it penetrates the leather as much as possible. Remember, less is more. When you're using your fingers, it seems to penetrate just a little more thoroughly, I find. Let that soak in. Start the other one. I like to really massage it in there and get that leather nice and supple. Try to get some of those wrinkles out. And work my way around. So I'll start usually on the inside of the shoe. This way, you know you've worked your way all around and you're not really missing any spots. Now what I'll do is I'll put the shoe down and I'll work it across the front here. Then I'll go to the outside part of the shoe. this is just the way I've been doing it for years, and I have quite an extensive collection, so I've never really had any issues doing it this way. And I find it always works, so why stop doing something that works, right? And just give it another, then I'll come across the top. Just as I want to, and that's now just with a little bit of the Renovateur cream, you can see the difference. Oh, a little bit of you can see the difference it's made. Now we're going to apply some of the 1925 cream. Toothbrush for the welts. Make sure your welts are always nice and supple and conditioned. I'm going to take this. Back in there, you. I apply with my finger. Remember, less is more. Little tiny increments is all you need. It's an old saying, with Saphir, less is more. And I believe that. Here, and we're done with one. Let that rest, and then we'll do it with the toothbrush. We'll get both of them after. This way the uppers have a chance to soak in all that niceness. Okay, so now I got my toothbrush. I just applied some of the 1925 creme here from Saphir, and we're going to just go along the welt and just make sure that's all nice and conditioned. So remember, less is more, so it does go far. And just a very little on the tip. That's all you need. As you need it, you apply it. Make sure you get it all inside there. Okay, so that is the right shoe completely done. And now we're gonna do the same on the left shoe, on the welt. Because remember, we did the uppers already. And we're going to make sure we get that nice and spread evenly. Because you don't want to leave any big chunks of that stuff. And just go around the shoe. Make sure you got everything, and we'll give it a few minutes to rest, and then we'll polish. Okay, our shoes have now rested. Now we're going to buff the 1925 Saphir creme and black off. And we're going to get the welt as well. As you can see, already it's starting to give you that little bit of shine. Come on the front. The outside of the shoe. Remember, the whole time I'm actually getting that welt as well. Down the front here. Always getting that welt. You can see the difference already. And just get the front here. And we're good. Now our third and final step is the Saphir Pate Deluxe. And I'm going to use the black brush I have specifically for this color to spread on this shoe evenly and get a perfect coating all over our footwear here. This is actually going to give this shoe a little waterproofing as well and give it a nice high gloss finish. Okay, now we'll let those rest. Okay, our shoes have had time to absorb all the pate we used for the high gloss finish and for waterproofing as well. Now we're going to try to bring out a little bit of a higher gloss finish out of these fully conditioned pair of Allen Edmonds, and hopefully they'll look like $1,000,000 when we're done. As you can see, we're starting to get a little bit of a little nice glossy finish here. And see, the shoe trees really help in this process. I highly recommend them. And I think we are done. And these are fully conditioned.
Awesome. All right, so this wraps up the project for today. We recrafted this pair of Allen Edmonds Park Ave cap toe 6 eyelet Oxfords. We did new JR full soles, new JR heels, and our friend Mario gave him a beautiful executive VIP polish using Saphir products. So as you can see, the shoes look pretty darn good, and I'm pretty sure our customer is going to be pretty happy with them. So that's it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you on our next project. Have a great day.